Today, I will be talking to you about the most important film director, Stanley Kubrick, and he is the most important film director, at least in my opinion, because he showed me that having a strong vision and a great director behind a project is exactly the most important step in making a great film. The three things that make him such a fantastic director is variety in genre, visual style, and his thoroughness. With variety in genre, I think the best way of me showing you is just to show you. Dr. Strangelove, released in 1964. It's a dark comedy about nuclear weapons. It's a war, comedy, and drama film. 2001: A Space Odyssey, released in 1968. It's a very experimental and strange science fiction film. You could categorize it under science fiction, adventure, and mystery. 1975, he made Barry Lyndon, which is a historical epic, historical fiction, and it's about the entire life of a man. It's a historical drama, romance, and war film. In 1980, Stanley Kubrick made an adaptation of Stephen King's horror classic, The Shining. I'm sure you've, at the very least, heard of it. It's a horror film, and it's a thriller. 1999, shortly after he'd passed, Eyes Wide Shut came out, and it's a very bizarre and eerie erotic thriller. It's also a mystery and a drama. And this shows he never played things safe. He never tried to make the same movie again, try and say the same thing twice. And because of this, you may be thinking that all of his films are totally different from one another, and that's just not the case. They were linked together by a strong visual style, and here are some shots of his masterpieces. There's quite simply something to the look of a Kubrick film. The main visual elements are that seem to repeat are that it's wide, it's empty, it's hollow, it's kind of eerie, it's symmetrical. And this is kind of to illustrate the cold and distant feeling in his movies. They're not warm, they're not happy, they're inhuman. And this is largely accomplished through Kubrick's framing. His framing is he has something, the key object in the center, and kind of symmetrical things on his left and right. And what this does is it draws your eyes into the center, and you kind of absorb the left and right side. And what this does is it keeps you locked in on what's important while absorbing the side details. And 2001 was really the game changer in this aspect, because it was his film carried by its visuals. That's one of the biggest reasons people went to see it, along with it being kind of a mystery. There's a famous story about that one of the reasons it made so much money was that people would go in and drop acid to the third act because the visuals are so insane during that part. He achieved those visual masterpieces with his thoroughness. Everything had to be perfect to Stanley. Good enough was not good enough for Stanley. He had to have perfection, or as close to perfection as possible, and it needed to be time accurate. Barry Lyndon is an excellent example of this. All of the costumes worn in Barry Lyndon were worn by real people during that decade. He got real historical locations to film in. He got a very experimental type of lens, which made everything appear very flat, which is what he wanted, because it made everything look like a painting. And that's what he wanted for the film, is you could pause it and hang it up and it looks like it belongs. And all of the lighting in it was either natural lighting or candle lighting. He didn't have like artificial lights, which made things incredibly difficult in time-sensitive shooting. A more controversial example of his thoroughness was The Shining. He had a certain take with Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall that took 127 takes, which is an absurd amount. And he mainly did it because he didn't buy Shelley Duvall's exhaustion and fear, and kind of made those two things real. And one of the real thing that ties Stanley Kubrick's importance together is the deal he had with Warner Bros., which gave him high budgets and complete creative control. That today is pretty much unheard of. You are not getting big budgets with an uncompromised vision. And this is mainly because people respected his vision and people were very interested in what he had to make next. In conclusion, what makes him so great is his variety in what he decided to make, his visual stamp on what he did make, and the thoroughness and dedication he had towards what he made. Thank you.